the incredible, the fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, come one and come all to a film you've never seen before. But remember, folks, no refunds.
Hello, and welcome to No Refunds, the podcast where we watch bad movies so you don't have to. A Cold North production. I'm your host, Ben Reynolds, and this week we'll be talking about Danny and Oxide Pang's 2008 Nicolas Cage vehicle, Bangkok Dangerous. Joining me for this discussion, we have the always effervescent Andrew Etchen, dapper Tim Miller, and Patrick the Law Morris. Check out everything we have going on over at coldnorthpro.com, and if you like what you hear, please leave us a rating and review wherever you found our podcast. And now, Bangkok Dangerous.
My job takes me to a lot of places. I sleep alone. I eat alone. I'd like to meet someone, but it's tough when you live out of a suitcase. My name's Joe. This is what I do.
All right. That brings us to our plot, where we start each week, and we read the synopsis that Google spits out when you Google the movie. So, when you type in Bangkok Dangerous, it comes up with this plot here. Remorseless assassin Joe is in Thailand to complete a series of contract killings for a crime boss called Surat. He hires a street punk named Kong to run errands for him, all the while planning to kill the youth at the conclusion of his assignment. Instead, Joe becomes Kong's unlikely mentor and begins a tentative romance with a local shop girl. But as Joe begins to let his guard down, Surat decides it is time to clean house. So yeah, that's what we've got from Google.
It's a good plot.
Yeah.
It leaves out the part about Nick Cage having the worst hairline I've ever seen.
No. Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Yo, his hairline goes halfway to the back of his fucking head, and then it's just like the lushest hair I've ever seen. Like that's
right. What's so out of place.
I did have it. One of my first notes about this was like, how does Nicolas Cage decide how long his hair is going to be for a role? Like,
I'm gonna just get this out there right now. I don't want anyone shitting all over Nicolas Cage in this podcast, because I realized as I'm watching this movie, I don't even like. There is nothing about Nicolas Cage I dislike. I just straight like Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, you dislike John Cusack, so
fuck that guy. I love Nicolas Cage though.
I can't take him seriously in most roles.
He's amazing.
I've got nothing against him, but that haircut is terrible.
The whole movie I couldn't get past the haircut.
Yeah, I couldn't either.
I was like, you stand out amidst the rest, all those fucking people, like in the streets. He just sticks out.
I just kept thinking about Castor Troy with that young girl in the beginning of Face Off.
Hours.
When he's like in the priest uniform and as Castor Troy, and he's like perving on that young girl. That's such a pervy scene. It's so weird.
When he goes, I could eat a peach for hours.
I don't know. Like, the whole scene where he's like sitting and having dinner and he's just like wolfing down that mint leaf branch. I was like, oh man, you're just the most like ridiculous fucking American ever.
All right, well,
he was awesome.
Let's get back to the plot. So,
no. Okay, I want to get my 2 cents in on his hair. Okay. It was second only to Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 2.
Mm. Dun 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 dun. Don't
right.
do it.
Copyright strike.
In any case, so remorseless assassin Joe is in Thailand to complete a series of contract killings for a crime boss called Surat. I agree with that part. That's a good start. He hires a street punk named Kong to run errands for him, all the while planning to kill the youth at the conclusion of his assignment. Again, good. Yeah, you didn't realize his name was Kong?
No, I just thought his name, like, I didn't think he had a name. He just called Nick Cage boss.
I was expecting him to ride a donkey at one point, but...
So then, instead, Joe becomes Kong's unlikely mentor and begins a tentative romance with a local... They should probably mention that she's deaf.
Teaches him the best Tai Chi.
And she's deaf. mute pharmacist.
Yeah, to call her a shop girl is like doing her a major disservice. Like she's a fucking pharmacist.
Although at the end,
At
the end, he like just bails on her and just never looks back.
Well, no. I
disagree with that.
When we get to the end of this movie, I actually really liked the end, and like for that reason, because
bad if I just like stopped paying attention at a certain point.
No,
like at like the 2/3, maybe like 3/4 mark, I just kind of like stopped paying attention.
I think one of the things it was too long. Like you could have trimmed and it was not very long. Yeah,
you cut out like 30 minutes, and that movie's only like an hour and 30 minutes.
It could have been like a solid episode of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. But as Joe begins to let his guard down. So, like, just weird that they just say, but as Joe begins to let his guard down. I guess because they're saying that he's letting his guard down because he's got the tentative romance. Yeah. Surratt decides it's time to clean house. I mean, actually, this is probably one of the better ones that we've really gotten from Google. Really, I just think they should have mentioned more about her than, like, calling her a local shop girl.
Yeah. I mean, honestly,
she's a pretty important character.
There were two characters that I actually really liked in this movie, and they were Kong and Fawn.
Oh yeah, Kong was the shit.
And like,
I also felt like the best scene in the movie, like the best shot scene and like the most interesting scene, and I actually literally wrote that down, was the scene where, the guys run up and like try and like grab him, and then he grabs the gun and shoots the two of them, and she doesn't even know what's going on until she feels she reaches on her back and sees the blood.
Oh yeah, and like
that was the best shot scene in the whole movie, because it was just like, oh whoa, this is actually a really cool thing I'd never really thought about. Yeah, like, and when I drop a bomb on you guys later in half-assed internet research, you guys are gonna be like, oh, this whole movie could have been so much cooler.
Holy shit, was she actually deaf?
Just hold on.
Is the actress deaf? I looked at a lot of pictures of the actress online for research.
I'm sure you did.
A lot.
Well, that's fair.
It's fairly difficult to find nudes of her. They might be out there. If they are, I wasn't able to find them.
I also said that it was probably also partially the best because Nicolas Cage doesn't say anything. He's just acting with his face, which, like,
he's a genius. He's one of the best actors of our time.
That's a leap. He was one of the best actors of now, like 1994 or 3 or 4 to like 1998 or something like that, when like Con Air and all those movies were coming out. He's really solid then.
Face Off.
Yeah, Face Off, Con Air.
But what about Next?
The Rock.
Next was a great movie, and that came out in the late 2000s.
That was an all right movie. But anyways,
we're never saw it.
Now we're in the weeds.
I'm just going to defend Nick Cage this whole time.
So
the more serious of a role he has, the less I can take him seriously. That's
Matchstick Men. Didn't he win an Oscar for Matchstick Men?
I don't know what that is. Matchstick Men? I might not have seen that. But like National Treasure,
probably
perfect.
His best movie, really.
Wicker Man, terrible.
Raising Arizona. Okay, Ben, first of all.
Gone 60 Seconds, perfect.
Great. Raising Arizona is fantastic. I agree with you, Ben. But Face Off is definitely his best movie.
That first scene where he's in the priest, it's just so
there's
so
like
creepy.
That is so such creepy. A good movie. That is a genuine great movie.
So terribly creepy. But we're in the weeds again. Back in the weeds on Nicolas Cage.
We got to get back to Bangkok Dangerous.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're getting off topic
on this show.
He did get all stalkery on Fawn.
On Fawn. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he did.
I also have a note that says, "Is the elephant going to suck up the heroin?"
Only if the trunk is facing down, and then it's bad luck.
Trunk facing down, bad luck.
Bad luck. Honestly, that's the only thing I've taken away from that movie is that is a symbol of bad luck
in Thailand. Only.
Thailand. Well,
See,
you don't know about India.
Yeah.
Who knows?
They're
like, no,
it got worse after he turned it right side up. It was just no.
Yeah.
Okay.
It should have been him replacing it with a different photo of it going up instead of just turning it upside down and being like, there, it's fixed.
He's got to work with what he's got. He's like the guy that invented the thong. Like, he didn't have a whole bunch of material, so he just worked with what he had.
Well, how about the rules? Did you guys learn the rules? That don't ask questions, don't take an interest in people outside of work, erase every trace, know when it's time to get out.
And if you're even thinking about it, that's when it's time. And honestly, those rules are good rules to live by.
Is it bad that I wanted to get out in the first 5 minutes?
Fuck you, Tim. Nick Cage is great.
You're like, I already regret this, and it's only been the intro.
All right.
That Russian guy. Okay,
we
transition.
got to talk about the end. We got to talk about the end. Like,
okay, well,
this is where I stopped paying attention.
The end was great because it brought. So okay, throughout the
his
entire
foot just
movie,
came off the brake. Why'd the guy's foot just come off the brake and the car just?
Oh yeah, that
rolling
was weird.
Back?
That was weird. But it was for drama.
So that to put it on display for everyone.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Okay, so throughout the entire movie, like lots of things are happening, but like there isn't really anything happening, if that makes sense. Like nothing is really progressing in the movie. It's just things are happening, and so like a lot of my notes are like Joe goes on a date, Joe eats a banana,
Joe eats a banana.
Joe rides a motorcycle.
Something spicy. Learns that mint will make it
yeah, exactly.
not as spicy.
Like there are.
I did not know mint did that. I wonder if it's true.
Yeah.
I know milk makes things not spicy.
Ooh, so good. There are a lot of things happening in this movie, but nothing is actually happening until the very end of the movie, and then like as he's like aiming the gun at the El Presidente or whatever, he's like, yeah, like the mayor or whatever,
Mayor
whoever.
John.
Yeah, he's like,
quotes.
he keeps thinking about Kong, saying he's a good man, helps people.
Well, they broadcast that at like roughly an hour in. I literally wrote down Mayor John is going to be the fourth hit.
Yeah,
but then like Kong said, like you, and he's sitting there thinking, and he's like, yep, like me. And then like at the end of the movie when he goes after the crime boss Surratt, and he's like, he realizes, okay, I'm just as much a part of the problem as Surratt, and he knows he has to kill them both. He knows he has to kill both Surratt and himself. And like then it happens, and it's like, okay, that brought everything in this movie together. And it's like, it is a redemption story. It's a story of a man who is a bad man who realizes that he's bad. And so he does the only good thing he can and goes out, like does the right thing, and then takes one more bad person out of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
do you think that would have worked? The whole put the gun to your temple, put
totally.
his head right next to you.
Yeah, totally. It was dramatic and I liked it.
I would have probably gone the other way, made sure that I killed him.
Yeah.
And then, like, if I have a bad headache, I can just roll over later.
Like, I can get another shot in if it didn't kill me.
Yeah.
So, like, at least it got him. But no, I really liked when.
Well, did he have two
Cage,
shots? Like, couldn't he have just capped him and then capped himself?
I was thinking the same thing. But if he had done that, he would not have been able to reach over and put his arm around Surratt and bring him in close. And I really liked that part. I was like, that's lit. Like,
I haven't seen Nicolas Cage
that
close to anyone since that girl in Face Off.
Yeah, Nick Cage, sit in the back of a car with Nick Cage's arm around you. Like, I don't care how famous of an actor you are. You're having a good day.
Surratt's face didn't seem like
hard pass.
A good day.
Yeah, same here.
I would take literally any other celebrity. Give me like Dave Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi.
Oh, dude,
Well,
that was
Kong
and
did
so.
kind of fuck everything up by dating that stripper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This was my biggest problem with the movie. There were so many strippers in this movie and almost no titties.
Yeah, that is kind of a problem. I was expecting more.
Oh my God, come on.
Almost no titties.
Like,
But
I don't
then
know, I think my
Surratt
favorite part,
threatened
though,
to cut,
that did involve
cut
some
that
titties.
girl's tits off.
he did threaten to cut that girl's tits off. There was that one girl with the good titties in that one scene where he kills the guy swimming in the pool.
Oh, that's what I was
That
saying.
scene,
She's just
that scene
wowsy
was
on
so
the side.
absurd.
How does he sneak up on a guy in a pool surrounded by guards and choke him out? I was
He's
just
a
like,
shark. You didn't know?
a predator unchanged for billions of years.
He's a shark.
But like they kept cutting to the girl with the titties out.
He's just like
It was
"Glad you
artistic.
complained."
And I was like, them some good titties.
I also wrote that the third hit does feel like when a hit goes wrong in Hitman, the video game.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Absolutely.
It actually had a real.
It's like, oh shit, I gotta jump out of the boat, run and chase them, and like,
Everything's going wrong.
this is horrible. Everything is out of hand.
yeah.
I don't know what I've done.
Everything's out of hand.
Exactly.
Everyone has seen me.
Exactly. That's totally how it felt. All right.
That
Well,
was
sorry, Pat. One more
about that hit though. It was a really cool shot when they're like, the camera was like in the water and you just see the bullets fly through the guy, through the boat and like into the water. And then you see the blood start to seep into the water. That was fucking
he
awesome.
shot way too many fucking times.
He shoots his gun way too many times.
He
I
shoots it
agree.
like 6 times. You're like, you're a hitman. You should have been
Shoot him
2
once.
shots at most.
Double tap.
You're like
He's
making
just trying
a
to make
shitload of
sure-
noise. He's just like, oh, I gotta bang, bang, bang,
That's
bang,
what
bang,
the
bang,
second
bang, bang.
shot.
First of
He's
all,
just trying to
boat's
make
not
sure.
gonna sink.
That's what the second shot is for, Ben. It's a double tap, and that's it.
It's to
All right,
guarantee
all right.
death. Yeah.
Well, let's wrap up plot here and move on to questions. So, each film we go through, we'll revisit these 6 questions to lead our discussion. So, I know we're already going to have some differing opinions on this first question. How bad was it?
It was good.
All right. Pat says it was good. Andrew?
It was fine.
Tim?
That's what I give it.
It was all right. I
solid
enjoyed it,
fine.
but-
World's okayest film.
Like, on the scale of films we've watched, it's not better
Definitely in
than
the
Starship Troopers, but
False.
you think you found it better than Starship Troopers?
Okay, I legitimately enjoyed this movie. And like,
this was 1,000 times better.
I thought
Speak such blasphemy.
there was so there was a very dynamic shift in the movie for me. I was watching it and I was like, man, this is pretty bad. And then I realized like it kept feeling more and more like a Chinese movie.
I
Because-
thought it felt like it was trying to be Lost in Translation mixed with a Hitman movie.
I mean, to be fair, I would buy a ticket to that movie. Like Bill Murray is Agent 47. I'm into that. I would buy that ticket.
Oh God.
But no, but like
I would definitely watch that.
Exactly.
Bill Murray being Hitman, that would be amazing.
but
Oh, man.
like he would just complain half the time
Mixed with, like, a
about how
Groundhog
sore
Day
he
type thing.
was.
I'm so sore.
Well,
I
what
was fighting.
he wasn't
So like a
inspired
third
us,
of the
was
way,
he?
a third of the way through the movie, I was like, there was this dynamic shift where I was like, okay, this actually really does feel like a Chinese movie. And I looked it up, and it pretty much is. It's pretty much just like a straight Chinese movie that was just released in the United States for some reason. And like after
it's
I
not a Chinese
realized
movie; it
that-
was a Thai movie.
well, Thai movie, but whatever. But like, I mean, you know, it's all the same. But like style wise, they're very similar. But after realizing that, I thought, no, this is like pretty good. I legitimately enjoyed the movie. I thought it was good.
So then you're saying it's the best of the movies we've watched so far?
I'm saying it is the least fit to be on this podcast.
I disagree. I feel like Starship Troopers holds that title still. I don't know if I would even say this is better than Spider-Man 3.
I enjoyed Spider-Man 3 more than this movie. I will gladly admit to that.
I don't know. I enjoyed parts of this, but like I said, I felt like it was too long. It could have been a short.
What about the scene where he meets Fawn's mom? That was so cool.
Was it?
Yes, his relationship with her was really sweet, but my biggest problem with this movie was the camera work. It was so jumpy. I couldn't do anything with it. It was just no.
It was the late.
It was just no.
Late aughts.
Yeah,
the end of the Bourne camera at work, which is thank God.
Everyone trying to imitate Paul Greengrass.
Rid of that Bourne camera style because it is nauseating.
Shaky cam.
It is very nauseating.
I loved how Fawn's mom is just like, what does he do for work? And she's like, I don't know. Ask him.
Yeah, right. That was another part. I'm like, that's a weird love relationship. Like that, the date where they're eating all the mint. I'm like, that would be. The most
I thought that was actually really cute
thing on the planet. You'd just be this fucking awkward American talking to someone who literally can't understand you and won't ever be able to
hear you. Or
his dumbass's first thought isn't to like learn some sign language. It's like
I loved
talk and like point at parts of himself.
I loved the date scene, and like I even in my notes I wrote down the dialogue from that scene.
All right, so we're gonna let's move on to our next question, which is what made it bad.
No, the dialogue made it great.
You're obviously not going to be you don't think it was bad, so you're not arguing the same.
But okay, so the dialogue in that scene was hilarious, and I will I don't know why, but I was charmed by this movie, and like I can see how people think it's bad, but that like I wrote the dialogue down from that scene word for word. It's hot. Oh, it's cooling down. Hot again, really hot. Yeah, that's better. Like, that was awesome.
Maybe that's
so an entire scene. They made an
Oscar
where Stone and Parker got the hot. So I felt like one of the biggest problems was that the foreshadowing that they included just literally broadcast the plot. To the point where it was just like, okay, I know what's going to happen next. And it's like, oh, yeah, clearly fucking Kong's going to screw this up. Like, yep, all right. Like, yeah, it broadcast what was going to happen the entire time. And I felt like that was probably the biggest thing, for me, the biggest problem. Like, I don't know.
Maybe I'm a really
I wanted
dumb
a little bit
moviegoer,
more mystery.
but I did not see that coming.
Really?
I mean, I saw Kong screwing something up, but like, I was just like, oh, he's killing a bunch of people. Like, that's cool. And then I was like, when it was time for him to kill the politician, I was like, oh.
I knew he was going to have to kill the politician as soon as they showed the politician on the screen. I was like, oh, that's going to be the fourth target. And
maybe I'm a dumb moviegoer.
And then I was like, oh, yeah, after he does, either he's going to do that and then go kill Surratt, or he's going to not do it and then go kill Surratt. And, hey, look, that's what happened.
He didn't do it, and then he went and killed Surratt in a very cool way.
Also, there, like, the scene where the police, so when the police see him when he tries to make the assassination and the police just start wildly firing into the side of a building. That seems like wildly irresponsible.
As he's running away, I saw he's like in this very ill-fitting like leather motorcycling suit that looks like it's like made for a child, and he's just like a grown man wearing it's very awkward, you know, when your shirt is too short and you know that if you reach up, your belly is going to show.
Yeah.
That's what that jacket looks like.
It's cold.
Well, and then when Nicolas Cage just steals the dude's hat, and the dude just doesn't care.
Unnecessary. Like, took a dude's hat and a camera, and he's
the guy
like...
just doesn't care at all. The guy's just like...
Yeah,
He's like,
whatever.
don't
Some
care
freak
at
just
all.
I
took
wasn't
my hat.
using them.
And he's just like faking taking a bunch of pictures. It looked so bad. I was like, that's a really unnecessary disguise right now.
Well, and I feel like killing himself was kind of also unnecessary at the end.
Oh, that was really necessary for the plot because he realized what he was, and he realized that he wasn't he realized he was just as big a problem as as Surratt.
But he could have given Kong all the money at least.
Yeah, that would have been
Because he
cool.
just he probably had a large amount of money from all of the other jobs that he had done.
I'm gonna in my
Are we
head.
also not addressing his completely unexplained heroin addiction?
Wait, no, that was not his. That's how he was supposed to make. He made it look like the guys who helped him were overdosed. That's
that
why
what
the
was
heroin.
happening?
Yeah, that's why the heroin was in the case.
Well,
That's
goes to
how he was
show I
supposed to
wasn't paying
kill
enough
Kong.
attention.
That's how he's supposed to kill Kong.
Put the needle in.
And it was probably fentanyl, actually, not heroin, because fentanyl's way easier to kill people with.
We're not going to argue the semantics of what drugs are easier to kill people with, but he made a hell of a bomb in a paint can.
I actually made notes about his bombs. It's just like the effects of that bomb seemed. I was just curious.
Exponentially.
Yeah, I was just curious about if that's what he used to make that bomb.
He Googled the anarchist cookbook and just took a page from it.
I'm sure that's
he's
part
a
of
hitman.
Yeah,
Of course, he knows how to make a bomb.
It was an interesting bomb.
A simple IED.
Okay,
Yeah.
one of my biggest problems with the movie, though, and I think that one of the things that made it not as enjoyable. Kong did a real shit job of negotiating. Because Kong is selling those fake Rolexes for 2,000 whatever a piece, right? And when he's trying to sell to the tourists, when he's razor cutting open the guy's backpack, blah blah blah. And then Nick Cage is 2,000 a day, and Kong is no, 5,000, and Nick Cage is 3,000. And Kong is okay. And it's 1.5 Rolexes a day, Kong. You can hustle harder than that on the street.
Yeah, Kong is not but he learned to be he learned a lot of things from Nicolas
Wasn't exactly
Cage.
the smartest of individuals at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, he learned a lot.
And he trains him in the art of the empty palm.
But I think this brings us to our next question.
Okay.
Which character was the worst?
Oh,
Nick
definitely
Cage.
not Kong.
No, it wasn't Kong. It was not.
Definitely not Kong.
I would argue Blondie or Kong's stripper girlfriend. Because she was hot, but she caused the whole thing to get messed up.
Well, Kong dating her really.
Yeah, that was actually Kong's fault.
Yeah,
Kong's just
Yeah.
that. Guys, don't fault my boy Kong.
Kong's breaking the first rule. One of the first rules that Joe taught him.
Oh,
Get attached.
I love Kong.
I know, but
I can't fault Kong for just looking at a hot stripper and being like, I bet I could date her, and going for it.
This is actually a hard one to decide who the worst
Isn't that
character
the dream?
Yeah.
By the way, one of the things that was in one of the IMDb plot synopses that I read was that Kong and Fawn bonded, and I was like, did Kong and Fawn even interact?
I don't think they even have a scene together.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, I don't think they did either.
But so fuck, maybe the blonde dude was the fucking worst character because
Blondie or Joe were the worst characters, and I love Nick Cage.
The blonde dude was kind of like your
he was super generic.
Yeah, but it was he served his purpose.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just he was the least interesting. I would say
Fawn's mom was pretty terrible.
No, you take that
was
back.
sweet.
Fawn's mom was asking the right questions. She was trying to keep an eye out on Fawn.
On her daughter.
Okay, how about the junkie in the first scene in was that Prague? Yeah.
Oh, that was just the whole intro was a little bit weird, but it was really cool that he shot as soon as the
Prague.
Yeah, as soon as the bell toned, I was like, this isn't called Prague Dangerous. But as soon as like the bell, went boom, he shot the bullet, and I was like, that's cool. Yeah. That's pretty cool. And it made a big deal out of his watch in that moment. And then his watch wasn't really a big deal ever for the rest of the movie. And that was one goofy ass looking watch.
Yeah, very. Oh no, the watch was a big deal at the end. Yeah, that's how the guys knew where Kong was.
I guess I wasn't paying enough attention.
And that's why he started, and he knew how to ask where is Kong in Thai. So he started asking them something Kong and pointing the gun at them. And that's why I put the one back
murdering with them.
I'm going Blondie was the worst character. Fuck that guy. Taking my boy Kong.
I mean, I guess just out of the fact that I have, it might have just been Joe. It actually was probably Joe.
You're lucky I'm not calling you the worst character for going after Fawn's mom.
No, you're right. It wasn't Fawn's mom, but it was probably Joe.
It could have been Joe, yeah. Joe was pretty bad. Yeah. It was every time they were trying to make him seem like a badass. I was like, you're just being a dick to Kong.
I also was like, this guy would not blend in at all as a hitman.
Yeah, he looks like
that guy would stick out in a crowd.
What did I say about shitting on Nick Cage's hair?
Yeah, he looks like a failed before and after of one of those hair plug commercials.
Failed before and after.
But it was. I really feel like it was not a. Yeah, Joe is pretty not good. Pretty not good.
Joe is pretty. I would agree with that actually, because I was frustrated because they did introduce this character Kong that I obviously really like, and then they just had Joe being a dick to him. And Kong just kept wanting his approval. Hey, boss. Hey, boss. Hey, boss. And then they do some weird montage where he kind of the movie turned into a Karate Kid sequel for a few minutes. And then and then he just kept being a dick to Kong. And it's like, why are you doing that, guy?
Yeah, Joe is the worst. Are we in agreement?
I'm going to vote on Joe.
Joe it is then.
Tim?
I don't know. I don't really remember which character Joe even is.
Joe's Nick Cage.
Yeah, I'd have to say Joe. I was going to say Surratt because, I don't know, he didn't really bring a whole lot to the movie other than just being the big boss bad guy. But, yeah, no, Joe was definitely the worst.
Yeah. Oh, man, I can't wait to drop the bomb on you guys later. So
that scene where Joe, where Kong got followed and then Joe was like, put the phone in the briefcase and then throw it away. And then he followed the briefcase and called the phone. First of all, everyone knows their ringtone. Nobody's going to be everyone at the table is looking at their phones. Is this mine? And then, exactly.
Everyone knows their ringtones.
Yeah. But then he picks it up and he's like, give the phone to your boss. And he gives it to him and he's like, come after me again, I'll kill your family. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm like, damn, Joe, you're hardcore.
Getting hardcore, yeah, right? That's a harsh thing to say.
Which character was the best?
Oh, definitely
Fawn's mom.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to give it to Fawn's mom, too, just because I can't choose between Fawn and Kong. And Fawn's mom asked some really good questions. That was earnest.
Those were true, investigative
It was an earnest
questions.
representation of, a boyfriend meeting his girlfriend's mom. Hey, what do you do for work? Tell me. Tell me how you're going to take care of my pharmacist daughter. She's a fucking pharmacist. She can take care of herself.
Yeah, and she's deaf, so obviously her mom is going to be looking out for her and asking these sorts of questions. That's a good mom.
Yeah.
No, she was a good mom.
She's a quality mom.
And then she bowed to him, and he bowed.
I liked Fawn and Kong too, but Fawn's mom was great.
Fawn's mom was great.
So then it sounds like unless Tim's got someone to throw out here.
I'm going to go with obligatory stripper number 7.
Oh.
Wait, is that the one at the pool?
Quality choice.
The first one, though, that takes the dollar with the red X from Kong, that chick was hot.
Yeah.
There were a lot of really hot chicks in this movie, and it made me want to go to Thailand.
I also wrote that Bangkok looks pretty cool.
Yeah, for the hot chicks.
Yeah. So all right. Then was it so bad it was good?
No, it was just good.
Yeah, no. I'd say it was just bad enough that it was like fine. It was like, you finish the movie and you're like, all right, I could do without watching that ever again, but I'm not, mad that I watched it in the first place.
Like, yeah, it's not fucking gaudy.
Yeah, it's not like a
exactly.
god-awful
Okay,
movie.
I would
it's one
watch
of those
this.
things where you're like, all right, that's obviously not an Oscar winner, but whatever.
I would watch this 5 more times before I watched Gotti one more.
I'd watch this 1,000 more times before I watched
God,
Gotti. Gotti
yeah.
was just that bad.
Gotti was terrible. Gotti was so very bad. All right, and our last question: would it have been better as a Netflix/HBO series?
Oh God, no! This movie, like we said, could barely hold together 98 minutes.
The show,
they should have just made it a solid 60,
Yeah,
with like a good 10 minutes of like credits.
As maybe as an HBO limited series that was was limited to 60 minutes.
One episode or 6 10-minute episodes. But also, I want to throw in there before we wrap up conversation. Fucking Joe was a good boss, though. He bought Kong a Moto Sliver, and I wanted one of those phones real bad when I was in high school.
Would have been a way better boss if he had given all of the money that he made from being an assassin to him before killing himself.
Yes, but that doesn't negate the fact that he gave him a Moto Sliver.
But then he made him give it to the bad
Dude,
guys.
the Moto Sliver was the first phone that could load from iTunes.
But he made them give it to the bad guys.
It was the original iPhone.
In any case. So, now we have reached one of my favorite segments, the half-assed internet research, which we are borrowing from the rewatchables. So, as Patrick as we were talking about earlier, this is a remake of a Thai film called Bangkok Dangerous, which was the Pang Brothers' directorial debut. The Pang Brothers' names are Danny and Oxide.
And one of them, Danny Pang, is real fucking ugly.
I did not see any pictures.
Is he a
of
fugly mofo?
So Nicolas Cage's company, Saturn Films, purchased the remake rights. So that's how it became. Nicolas Cage basically took interest in making it an American version of it, and that's how he ended up as in the main role. And in the original film, the main character is deaf.
I did know that.
So Joe, the assassin, would be deaf, not the girlfriend.
I did know that, and I thought that would have, I read the plot synopsis on IMDb for the original, and I thought that's a way cooler premise.
Yeah. But so then the Pang brothers were like, we'd like to keep him the same, but we understand that from a marketing point of view, he needs to have some lines. Oxide was quoted as saying in the New York
some
Times.
lines.
So what we're going to do is transform his girlfriend instead into a deaf mute. This switch will maintain the drama of communication between the two main characters.
Maybe not.
I think it could, and that's why I feel like if Nicolas Cage had just been a producer on the movie and they had gotten some other minor, use another Thai person, have him be deaf.
Keep it in the region.
Yeah.
I think that making that change just is really why this movie is so bad. But it also it's like that scene, the scene where the fact that she's deaf really actually matters when he shoots the two people behind her, and then she doesn't realize. Yeah,
that's sort of the only scene that's really necessary.
Yeah, but that scene, he acts with his face so much, and I thought that was the best scene, and I was like, oh, wow. So the whole movie could have been like that scene if they had not made this change.
Yeah. I mean, I really like Nicolas Cage's voice, but
yeah, I don't know about that. And then we wouldn't have had to deal with his fucking terrible hair either. But in any case, we had to. So there's also an alternate ending where Kong steals a police car and comes and saves Joe after Joe kills Surratt. And then the police or somebody are I didn't see this. I didn't end up seeing this, but then the police or somebody is trying to get Joe, and Kong tells them that Joe killed Surratt, and they end up letting Joe recuperate, and in that version he gives Kong all of the money that he made from being a hitman and leaves on a boat with his passports. And that's where the very last scene where Kong is on the dock came from.
Oh, so they left part of the alternate ending.
Only just enough, just enough to make sure that you get a little taste.
Because that was kind of weird to just why is Kong just standing on a dock?
So question for you: was it clear whether or not Nick Cage actually shot himself in the head in that ending? Did he survive a gun to the head?
Oh, no, he did not shoot himself in the head. I'm pretty sure he just kills Surratt in that ending.
I'm not sure if that would have made it better or worse.
Yeah.
Maybe better. Like that movie, I liked this movie.
I think it would have been better with that ending, maybe a little bit too. But it would have also been better if he was a deaf mute. Yes, it would have been better if he was a deaf mute, and it would have been really cool to see them double down on we're gonna have Nicolas Cage be a deaf mute. Yeah.
That would have been been a ball.
I actually would have thought that would make the movie.
That would have definitely
better.
been a flex.
Yeah, exactly.
But what were you gonna say?
Well, that would have been a ballsy move, but I feel like Joe realizing that he was part of the problem and he needed to die was a huge part of the redemption arc for the character.
I didn't get that from that scene though. I maybe I didn't read enough into it, but he was like, okay, I'm surrounded by cops. I'm not gonna make it out of this. I'm just gonna kill myself and him, end it, and call it good.
No,
that's what I got out of it.
Super cowardly, and plus he's such a badass. He could have killed all those cops if he wanted. But also, one more thing about Joe being a dick to Kong. Kong stops at the fucking Kong stops. He doesn't stop, and then he's like, "You ran from cops." It's like, what do you told him not to stop for anything, or he doesn't get paid. He wants to make his money.
I'm sure he didn't mean stoplights, but in any case, the last piece of half-assed internet research is, in its opening weekend, it won the box office, but it only brought in $7.7 million, which is absolutely
not
terrible for an opening weekend. And it narrowly edged out.
It took 30 to make it.
Tropic Thunder by a few $1,000s, which Tropic Thunder was in its fourth weekend.
In its fourth weekend? I thought it was in its first weekend.
No, Tropic Thunder was in its fourth weekend when Bangkok Dangerous opened. So yeah,
that was a good movie.
Oh yeah, God. Tropic Thunder is amazing. But we're not talking about Tropic Thunder.
No, that's
unfortunately. Yeah. I shall call him Little Squat.
All right. So since we don't, Pat, what?
I keep going. I'm gonna look up the opening weekend for Infinity War just to give some perspective on that.
Oh God!
Because $7 million is pretty bad.
Yeah,
well, I mean, I think that's even worse. That's way worse. I give us Starship Trooper opening weekend.
I don't remember.
It doesn't look like it. Oh no, I did Gaudi's. I think God might have even done better.
God, that's really disappointing because Nicolas Cage.
Well, we can all be in agreement that it did not enough money.
God didn't even make
Oh yeah,
God made $1.7 million in its opening weekend.
Ooh, all right,
that's god awful.
Sorry,
I'm more on it.
All right. Well, since we don't only watch bad movies and TV, let's talk about some of the stuff that we have genuinely enjoyed watching lately. Andrew?
Did I mention Bird Box yet?
No, I don't think you
I
have.
thought that movie on Netflix was pretty good.
Nice.
Definitely
I have not
has
watched it
flaws
yet.
in it, but it's pretty good.
My
I liked
roommate
it.
said he felt like it was a kind of a rip-off of A Quiet Place.
Well, it's
It's
I
very
wouldn't
much
say a
an
rip-off,
Armageddon
but
Deep Impact
certainly in the
situation.
same vein. I think Quiet Place is certainly better, but it's definitely in the same vein as that type of like movie. But I like those types of movies. Mysterious monsters.
I'm sure I'll watch it eventually. I have not watched it yet.
Without getting into too much detail as far as discussion on that, I feel like I watched Bird Box and I thought it was okay. I feel like the biggest problem with that movie is there's only so many times that you can have something really horrific happen and cut the camera away right as it happens and then show like a puddle of blood getting bigger and bigger before you're less building tension and more just shining a spotlight on the fact that you're working on a budget. And so
I feel like you gave a lot away with that. So
sorry. Well, whatever.
The only thing I would say about the movie that for somebody who enjoys movies like that with mysterious monsters is that you do not get to ever see these creatures. Technically, there is sort of a moment where you get to see a representation of one, but you don't really get to actually see one. So the movie is up to a lot of like imagination in terms of what they are, what's happening, and things like that. So I have heard a lot of really interesting theories from like coworkers and stuff as to what the hell's going on, or like what actually is happening, or what they're seeing, or whatever. And so that's why I thought it was a pretty good movie. I enjoyed it. I thought it was
reminded me a lot of The Happening, actually.
Yeah, I could see that, but with a little less
Happening was
Shyamalan.
a movie that may eventually make this podcast.
Yeah, I think rightfully so too.
So, Tim, what about you?
I haven't really watched a lot this. Actually, no. I did a huge marathon of Bond films this past week.
Ooh, very nice.
So,
which was your bet? Did you finally watch Casino Royale?
I did watch Casino Royale. It was all right. Not one of my favorite Bond films, but it was pretty good.
My favorite scene is when he's tied to the chair naked with the hole in the bottom. The guy's got like a pendulum.
It's
just like, yo, that's some fucked up torture.
He wants him to scratch his
just brings
balls.
this giant knot, just swinging it.
He wants him to scratch his balls.
That's such a good. I think that is the second best Bond movie there is.
All right,
poor testicles.
Patrick, how about you? What have you watched?
So real quick, Infinity War made $257 million at the box office in its opening weekend.
So that is like, oh my god,
that's $250 million more in one weekend.
Yeah, $250 million. Yeah, at that point, we can just round down. We can round $7 million down.
Yeah.
But I watched Into the Spider-Verse, and it is the best Spider-Man movie that has ever been made.
So good.
It's so good. I've listened to the soundtrack like 12 times.
I need to watch it. I really need to see it.
It's so
I do
good.
too.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
Good.
Gordon Miller, do it again.
And it was.
See if I can find a rip tonight.
It was really awesome because it was like, I think my favorite part of it was the fact that they made an animated movie that you could not make if it were live action.
Mm-hmm.
There was so much going on that they just can't do with special effects.
It was so Spider-Man that like it had to be animated.
It had to be animated.
Well, and they basically did the same thing with the Lego movie too. That's
why I love Spider-Man.
There's just so many parallels between the two of those, and then also with like they're genius writers and producers and directors. Yeah, they're very, very good. Recently, I started watching Lodge 49 on Hulu. It is an AMC original series that I just randomly stumbled upon on Hulu, and it's got Wyatt. Shit, I'm blanking on
Wyatt Earp.
No, His dad played Wyatt Earp.
God, what's his name? Wyatt Russell.
Wyatt Russell, yes, Kurt Russell's son, Wyatt Russell. I really like Wyatt Russell, and I noticed that he was in that show, and I was just like, oh, I'll check that out. And so far, it's pretty funny. He plays this like kind of burnout surfer dude who is just kind of down on his luck and ends up joining like basically like something sort of like the Masons. It's pretty funny, definitely. Also, it's I kind of feel like it's like Shameless, but not as like
shameful.
Well, not as just like least common denominator. I want to say like okay. I don't like. I know that a lot of people really enjoy Shameless, and I really enjoyed like the first couple seasons of Shameless, but after a while it jumped shark.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in a while.
It jumped the shark.
I watched an episode. That was about it.
Yeah,
it jumped the shark.
I think I got like 5 seasons in. Was like, I don't know if I can keep going. It's just more of the same.
It's not like Lodge 49 isn't as absurd, I guess, as Shameless. Like you could actually, I know people like say that like, oh yeah, if you're in the like ghetto in Chicago, people would actually do some of the stuff that they do in Shameless, and it's like, yeah, I'm sure that they would, but I don't think they would do it in the same way that people do things in Shameless.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like Lodge 49 is a little bit more sort of believable. I don't know. But in any case, that wraps up this week's discussion of Bangkok Dangerous. Don't forget to check out our incredible website, coldnorthpro.com, where you can see everything we do in one place. Listen to us weekly on our other gaming podcast, Hard Reset. Next time, we'll be watching another gem from Paul W.S. Anderson, 2008's reboot of the Roger Corman classic, Death Race. It's available to watch on Netflix. See you next time. And don't forget, no refunds.